And that's why we're having this conversation. Have you ever had a feeling that you are underpaid? Well, you're not alone. 45% of South African professionals feel underpaid for the role that they do. And that's according to a study by specialist recruitment agency Robert Walters UK. A mere 5% of workers surveyed say they have ample disposable income, while a quarter live paycheck to paycheck. Now, interestingly, this has forced professionals to take up side hustles in order to supplement their income. So let's unpack this now with Megan Prosser, Senior Manager at Robert Walters UK. Megan, thank you so much for your time. And are you paid, or are you paid enough or underpaid? Megan, we just have to start with this one. How are you feeling? What's your census?
I think the only sensible thing for me to say on this platform is I'm 100% happy and that my employer looks after me very well and I have no complaints.
There you go. That's why we have you for this conversation. But it's a different take for 45% of South African professionals. They feel underpaid in their roles. Take me through what you found in this survey and how interesting it is that most people just feel like they're not paid their worth.
No, correct. Thank you so much, Melo, and thank you for that excellent summary at the beginning of our research here. We sampled 2,000 professionals in South Africa, and we do operate, I guess, mainly in the white-collar space. I guess, we're blue-collar, white-collar, we're looking at things like lawyers, accountants, that kind of group of people. But nevertheless, even within that group of fairly well-established professionals, as you say, 45% feel underpaid. Now, I think this has more to do perhaps with the cost of living than it does just to do with, our sense of whether we're being remunerated fairly. And the reason people are starting to feel that way is that they are finding they're coming to the end of the month at a deficit. And that is a very common conversation we're having. Whereas before they would have had what we call disposable income left over, perhaps for luxuries, but not just for luxuries, also for emergencies or for savings. They're now finding they're coming to the end of the month with nothing remaining. And that puts them in a very precarious situation. Feeling underpaid is really a case of what you have at the end of the month and what you can afford to squirrel away for the future. Only 5% of our survey told us they could save any money at all. And as I say, the main cause for this is the pressures of the stagnation, as in low growth and high inflation. And the remedy is that people are taking on a second job or a side hustle, either formally or informally. And that is 18% of the people we surveyed.
Yeah. Speaking of those side hustles and, additional income, how are employers taking it? Because traditionally we know that moonlighting is not necessarily encouraged by your HR manager. Policies clearly stipulating that you either have to declare or you are advised against having an additional income. So are employers more encouraged to almost be more accepting of side hustles now?
I don't know if they have made that shift yet. Our report is partly to encourage employers to make that shift. I mean, we are not economists. We're looking at, recruitment from that perspective. But we know what it takes to get people into roles, and we know what it takes to get people to stay in roles. Those are our areas of expertise. So yes, you're quite right. For a long time, there has been a moonlighting clause in most contracts saying this is not allowed. If you look at the average employer or our impression of the average employer, it's that they're a fairly jealous company, and they want you to have only focus on them and all of your attention to that. But if we take that natural thought a little bit further, I mean, we all have other aspects in our life. We have families, we have children, we have other responsibilities, and the side hustle is part of that. It doesn't necessarily have to detract from your performance in your main employment. And in fact, I think if employers are more open about those conversations, they are going to have happier staff. So we encourage that employers pretty much do away with that antiquated idea that there can be no further income. Having said that, obviously there can be a danger of a conflict of interests. For example, I'm a recruiter. If I go to Robert Walters and say, hi, I want to do a side hustle and it's recruitment, I think they might have an issue with that. But if I say, I want to teach Zumba on a Saturday morning, it's very hard to see what the danger would be there to your main employer.
Right, yeah. When it comes to additional income as well, just my last question to you, Megan, before I say goodbye. What does your survey say about those resorting to credit cards or even loans to supplement their main income?
Absolutely. I mean, credit cards and payday loans especially have been a sort of, I don't know, it depends on your moral stance, but certainly they don't do anyone any good. And again, we would all agree, I think, that a side hustle bringing in some extra money is going to be a better, more sustainable option than going into debt and credit. But of that 18%, we didn't distinguish between those that have taken a second income and those that have gone further into debt. You know, if you go on any debt review group on Facebook here in South Africa, and there are many, the first thing they will say is consolidate and clear your debt, because that's going to be the deepest kind of pool that you can fall into. But obviously, you know, if you're coming to the end of the month and you can't cover your costs, that is the reason people are going down that path.